guys, it's Amy, and I wanted to share my recent haul of art supplies that I got in preparation for Inktober. Now, if you don't know what Inktober is, it's where artists from all over draw at least one ink drawing each day for the month of October. Today, I'll be sharing the products I'm adding to my roster. All of the products are listed in the description below, as well as some links to where you can purchase them for yourself. Now, to start off with is the sketchbook I'll be using. This is a Moleskine watercolor album. It has 36 pages, which is perfect for Inktober because there's 31 days in October. This watercolor album is cold pressed. When you look for different watercolor paper, many times it will be labeled as either hot pressed or cold pressed. Hot pressed tends to be super smooth and it doesn't tend to hold watercolor as well. That's why I usually prefer cold pressed. It has a very light to medium texture and absorbs your ink and watercolor to a decent degree. Next is the Prismacolor Col-Erase pencil. This is basically a colored pencil that has an eraser on the end, so it's very useful for preliminary sketches where you just want to rough out what you'd like for your piece before you go straight in with the ink. Next is the Sakura Pigma Professional brush set. This includes fine tip, medium tip, and large tip brush pens. I tend to really like this brand. You'll see a few more pens like this later on in this video, but they don't run dry very quickly. They have good ink flow and a really rich black pigment that works well when you're lining your drawings. As for inks, this year I added a couple Daler-Rowney FW Acrylic Artist inks. These include olive green and turquoise colors. They're very opaque and vibrant, so if you want lighter tints, you do have to add a little water. Now this is one of my favorite products. This is a Niji Waterbrush. I actually own one of these brushes already, but all I have is the small size, so I bought a large this year. Here you can see my existing one. You add water to the handle, it comes with a cap, and if you squeeze the handle, water is released through the brush tip, which comes really in handy for painting on the go, and helps ensure that your brush strokes do not run dry while you're painting. For brushes, this year I bought a Utrecht Series 228 size 1 Sablette watercolor brush. Now this is a very fine tip brush. I have a couple larger brushes that you'll see later on, but I just needed one to help use with my ink to line my drawings. I'm excited about this product. This is a COPIC opaque white ink. If you're like me, sometimes you make a few mistakes in your drawing, and in order to cover up very vibrant inks, this very opaque white ink should do the trick, and I'm looking forward to testing it out. And finally, a little accessory for my sketchbooks. These are X-acto Bulldog clips. I have a couple really larger ones when I work with an easel or just a drawing board, but these are great because you can clip them right to the pages and it holds everything in place. This way, none of the pages flip and get in the way, and just helps lay things a little more flat. Now I'd like to share with you a few supplies that I already had on hand that you might want to consider as alternatives to what I just showed you. The first one is called Arch's Watercolor Pad, and it's pretty expensive. It's not something that I use on an everyday basis. And as you can see, I had to tape it. This pad is pretty old, but it works just as well. But what makes it special is that it's bound on all sides, meaning that all the pages are laid flat, so when you lay ink or watercolor on it, it doesn't warp. Now this pad is cold pressed as well, just like the one I bought, so in terms of texture, it will be relatively similar to the more affordable Moleskine sketchbook. It might not be the most affordable, but professional quality wise, it's probably one of my top picks. Now, I already showed you the Sakura Pigma brush pen set that I bought, but I already have on hand Sakura Pigma MICRON pens. Now these are liners that come in a variety of sizes, meaning the tips are different sizes, and they work perfectly for those finer details that come with your drawings. Now this is the Utrecht brush that I bought the other day. What I have on hand are Winsor Newton watercolor brushes. These are part of their Scepter Golden collection, and they are probably my favorite brushes to use in terms of watercolor and inks. I have a larger brush for broad ink and watercolor washes, and then a finer tip brush for more detail. Here we have the Daler-Rowney inks I showed you before, but I also want to share with you this Winsor Newton Black India ink. This is my preferred ink that I use when doing my basic lining and detail. But then I also have a cheaper alternative, and that's the Bombay Black India ink. I don't like this one as much because it's more translucent than the Winsor & Newton, but for beginners, this can be a good, cheaper alternative. For colored inks, I tried this Higgins ink that I had. This one is violet. I also have a blue colored one as well. These are very translucent. You don't need much water to have lighter tints to them. In fact, you have to layer them multiple times in order to have a very opaque, vibrant layer. I have another Daler-Rowney ink. This is FW Pearlescent ink. This is their gold ink that I wanted to use for accents and details. Again, it's pretty opaque like the other Daler-Rowney ink, and the metallic quality is good, but it wasn't exactly the metal kind of finish that I was looking for. As for pens, this is a pen and nib I use when I'm not using a brush. This works with any of the inks shown today. It doesn't really have a brand. Basically, the holder is just a generic one I think I picked up at school, and then the nibs are a collection of different brands. So if you go to an art supply store, you can find a variety of pen and nibs and then test them out for yourself. Usually a combination of them tend to work best, and all you really have to do is match up the pen size with the nib size and make sure that it's the correct tip that you want for the kind of lines that you want to make. This one is a fine point, so it's good for details and lines. You can get calligraphy nibs to work with lettering and so on. And finally, I showed you the Bulldog clips. Now, those are to hold pages in place. In order to tape my pages to prevent watercolor, I use washi tape. I have a couple different colors. I like these just because they stick to the page, they prevent color from leaking, but when you remove them, it doesn't take up any of the paper. Another alternative is painter's tape. So that was my Inktober art haul. I'd like to demonstrate using the supplies that I just bought the other day, not the ones I had on hand, except for the sketchbook, which I'm saving for actual Inktober. So I'll be using just a smaller watercolor sketchbook, which is a Moleskine 2, just a smaller size, so you can see what it looks like. just want to thank you again for all of your support. All of these art supplies are made possible by my patrons on Patreon. Each month, patrons enjoy a variety of rewards, from exclusive sketches to high-res versions of the major illustrations that I create. So thank you once again, guys, and as always, I hope you have a fantastic week. Bye-bye!